Octoboy, Chapter 1. The Sausage Roll Incident. Oliver Finch wasn't sweating over grades or popularity that Friday afternoon. He wasn't worrying about the increasingly suspicious look Mrs. Grimble had given him during last period, or about whether Lucy had eaten the last bag of crisps again. No, Ollie had his focus locked on something much, much more important. The flaky remnants of a sausage roll cradled in his palm. The last one from the cafeteria. The ultimate prize. The group of students shuffled around him as they trailed through Aqua World's corridors, but Ollie barely noticed. He'd savored each bite of his snack earlier, savoring it like it was the last meal before a life sentence. Every step past the tanks felt oddly charged, an invisible tension in the air. Was time stolen from his perfect golden moment? "Finch!" someone called behind him. Probably Ben. Ollie didn't turn, instead shifting his grasp on the pastry to avoid losing a morsel. Aqua World was an endless maze of tanks and bright blue posters warning children not to knock on the glass, but navigation didn't matter when you had a sausage roll. Ollie ducked under one of the warning signs. "What's that?" Ben finally caught up, his voice dripping with betrayal. "You said you weren't hiding snacks." "I said I wasn't sharing snacks," Ollie corrected, shifting away from his friend. "There's a key difference." "Oliver Finch!" Ben made a dramatic grab for the pastry, careening into Ollie in one clumsy lunge. Ollie yelped and swerved against the railing that overlooked a particularly large research tank. Ben's momentum carried them sideways, colliding heavily with the barrier. Panic spiked as the sausage roll tumbled from his fingers, spiraling out of sight. It fell. Straight into the tank. Worse, right into the middle of the restricted area sign. Bold red letters screaming, "Do not touch or feed the exhibit." "Oh no," Ollie said, his voice small, barely audible over the slight splash below. Ben pointed dramatically. "It's gone." He sounded stricken, almost like he'd lost a family heirloom. Ollie blinked down into the tank, his chest tightening. "Brilliant observation, Ben. I never would have guessed." "What if it ruins the exhibit?" Ben's already fretting voice grew louder. "What if the fish all, like, inferno, die on the spot?" Ollie groaned. "Sausage rolls don't cause mass extinction. They cause hunger management. Quiet down before Mrs. Grimble hears." But Ben didn't quiet down. Instead, he gasped, one hand clenching Ollie's forearm with surprising force. You dropped it right into... Look!" Ollie followed Ben's shaking finger into the depths of the tank. Of course this would happen to him. He leaned over the railing to see the aftermath of his sausage-based tragedy. Through the rippled water, shadows undulated beneath the glass surface, their forms shifting in the unnatural blue light of the tank. Something moved. Big something. No, something enormous. Ollie squinted. It wasn't a shark or a dolphin. It wasn't even close to the weirdly enthusiastic penguins in the open enclosure they'd passed earlier. It was a different living nightmare altogether, staring back up at him. 8 curved arms, waving lazily under the surface. A bulbous head shaped like an upside-down question mark. A creature that radiated confidence somehow, like it had been ruling this tank long before Ollie's sausage dropped in. Oh no, it was an octopus, and it was staring at him. Ollie's knees locked as dread curled up his spine. The octopus drifted closer, its movements so precise and concentrated, it almost felt choreographed. Ollie swore its head tilted slightly, as though considering him with far more focus than was reasonable for seafood. Then the octopus spoke. Ollie Finch. Everything inside him froze. Not audibly. Not above the roaring din of Ben's continued panic beside him. The words echoed in Ollie's head, clear and unmistakable, reverberating like sound waves against the inside of his brain. The voice was low and steady, calm, but also judgy? Like someone trying unsuccessfully to mask centuries of disdain for other people's stupidity. You dropped a sausage roll, the octopus continued. Ollie stepped back instinctively, and, oh no, his sight tilted sideways as his shoe slipped against the lower railing. Momentum betrayed him in a single horrifying second. He toppled forward, gravity pulling him faster than his scream. Ben shouted something incoherent in the background, but then everything turned into the sharp shock of cold water crushing his face and clothes. For a moment, Ollie's limbs flailed wildly, kicking and clutching against the blur that surrounded him. The water was so sharp and moving, he couldn't see where he'd landed nor what direction he was heading. Panic forced him to focus his every thought on surface survival, until something unreasonably strong wrapped itself around his right ankle. And pulled. And pulled. The water tilted as Ollie came face to face with the beast. No glass barrier between them now. No comfortable sense of separation from the aquarium's largest mystery. Just the octopus, incredibly close. Its impossible presence consuming both the tank and the air in Ollie's collapsing chest. Terrifyingly intelligent eyes locked onto his. Its grip adjusted on Ollie's ankle. Firm. Commanding. Not a suggestion, no. It was calm dominance. You're pathetic, the octopus said flatly. Humans are forever dropping things. Ollie tried to speak, but bubbling water got there first, trickling out of his throat before his panicked voice could rise. The octopus tilted closer. You should be grateful you dropped it here rather than at sea. I hate cleaning ocean debris. His chest burned, his brain barely following context. What? He sputtered, but no full word arrived. His lungs demanded priority. The octopus didn't blink. Could it blink? Well, it didn't. Instead, its mental voice sharpened with a firm precision. Hold your breath, Finch. I can't let you drown in my tank. Not yet. Then the grip on his ankle released. Sudden propulsion launched Ollie upwards, a current evidently constructed just for him. His body flung just past surface confusion, back into the shiver of air from surface environment, back into the human world's shouting sound. Above, the railing, vague shapes beyond clamor. Ben's screaming sounded fresh. Acts of terror layered everywhere background flash priority around aqua distraction sparring. Ollie felt louder, grip slammed impossible somewhere entered. Before answers, clarity arrives. Chapter 2, The Octopus Explanation. Salt water burned his eyes as Ollie struggled to make sense of what was happening. His sneakers sloshed uncomfortably, soaked through, and the faint hum of underwater filtration pumps buzzed in his ears. Somewhere nearby, a muffled voice, no, not a voice, a thought, was threading its way into his already overloaded brain. Calm, measured, and very, very annoyed. Human, would you stop flailing? It's embarrassing for both of us. Ollie froze mid-splash. Eyes stinging, he froze, his breath catching in disbelief. Might pick up something clearer if he leaned sideways. That had been inside his mind, but surely not. Struggling to right himself in the waist-deep water, his gaze darted around the massive tank, scanning for anything that might explain the surreal moment. All he saw were harmless clownfish darting beneath the rippling surface and the curved glass walls that sealed him in. Beyond them, shadows of gawking Aqua World employees loomed like fish-shaped blobs. None of them spoke in his head, but something was watching him. A shadow loomed and coiled in the corner of the tank, impossibly fluid, curling and uncurling with impossible grace. 8 arms, glistening like polished copper in the artificial light, unfurled toward him. A slow-motion bloom of alien intelligence. Ollie's breath caught in his chest as 2 impossibly large amber eyes focused on him. The octopus, the same one from before, looked ancient. Not old, like it's outlived 3 turtles in the tank kind of old, but ancient in a way that felt biblical or cosmic, or maybe just absurd. What are you staring at? The thought pressed into his mind again, each word laced with condescension sharp enough to cut through his shock. You're an octopus, Ollie stammered, feeling the statement fail to fully capture the absurdity of the moment. Very observant, the octopus grumbled, or rather thought. You must be the brightest human of your generation. Wait, what? Swallowing back both confusion and the faint taste of seaweed, Ollie stood stiff as the water pulled at his soaked jeans. His fists clenched and unclenched uselessly at his sides as he tried to piece together what exactly the octopus had just said, or thought, or whatever. I suppose I should start with introductions, the octopus mused, its massive frame gliding nearer to him. Tentacles swirled and hovered like smoke in the water, creating ripples that lapped against Ollie's soaked shirt. I am Sage, guardian of the seas. Not that humans typically require such explanations. You're all usually far too distracted by breadcrumbs or lit-up rectangles you keep glued to your hands. It was so ridiculous, Ollie could hardly process it. Talking octopus, he muttered, as if saying it out loud might somehow snap him awake. He half hoped the Aqua World security team would storm through the tank by now and end what was clearly an actual fever dream. But no one came. Not even the distant echo of yelling outside the tank reached him. It was just him and Sage, who looked annoyingly proud of himself. Technically, I don't talk. This conversation is telepathic. A far more efficient means of communication, though I imagine I've already lost you on the word telepathic. Wait. Ollie tripped over his thoughts, shaking water from his ear. How are you talking to me? What do you mean by guardian? And what's a telepathic octopus doing in a tank at an aquarium? Shouldn't you be, I don't know, off exploring some secret underground ocean realm or something? Sage sighed, a strange gesture heard more like a vibration against his brain than actual sound. If only it were that simple. But no, I am needed here. Or rather, you are needed. Ollie blinked, his brain grinding to a halt. He glanced over his shoulder at the murky shadows outside the tank, hoping to catch one of his friends staring at him through the glass. But there was no Ben making faces to lighten the mood. No Lucy poking holes in his reality with sharp logic. Nothing tethered him to normalcy. Me? He said finally, voice cracking. Yes, you. The Octagift has chosen you. Octagift? Ollie echoed back dumbly, like a parrot unsure whether the sounds it made were questions or mere mimicry. His every instinct screamed at him to back away, but his sneakers stuck stubbornly in the gooey tank floor. Sage seemed unimpressed. The Octagift. A power passed down every few centuries to a human, mediocre one, typically, who is built with enough potential to tolerate intelligent training, but not so much that arrogance overrides wisdom. A balancing act, you might say. A balancing act. Mediocre. Ollie suspected that last word hadn't been chosen on accident. Well, I think you've got the wrong person, he said, planting his hands on his hips as if that could offset his wet clothes clinging to him like a forgotten laundry day mistake. I'm not special. I'm just Ollie. I forgot my own physics homework on Wednesday and then accidentally told Mrs. Grimble I was late because my dad invented a toaster that exploded. She sent me to detention. Alone. Does that sound like destiny material to you? Sage's two great amber eyes narrowed, drawing closer. It sounds exactly like destiny material. Fairly sure the octopus was about to grab his head and squeeze his brain into an actual knot. Ollie shrank back, hands out as a gesture of chaotic hope. Well, that's great and all, but I don't think... I do the thinking, Sage cut in sharply, voice folding over Ollie like water crashing against the hull of a ship. And since you clearly need answers spelled out before you can even grasp the obvious truth, the world is at risk, not just yours, but the seas. Everything connected to it. Ollie's heart thudded unevenly, fear and confusion colliding. At risk? What Who? What do you mean? Sage remained motionless, letting the water ripple against his substantial frame as silence stretched taut around them. Something is hunting my kind. Our kind. The intelligent beings of this earth. Not just octopuses. Dolphins, whales, every creature that thinks beyond primitive instinct. Someone is building a weapon out of them. If they succeed, balance ends. Chaos reigns. I have reason to believe the answer to stopping it lies intertwined with you. Ollie stared blankly, his thoughts sputtering like rusty gears. If anxiety could be a tangible object, it'd feel like a tidal wave crested just beneath his ribs. This is insane. Sage's amber gaze didn't waver. Chaos often appears that way. The question is what you'll do next. Why does it even have to be me? Ollie blurted, arms flinging outward in frustration before he splashed himself in the face and nearly toppled backward. Can't you pick someone smarter? Or stronger? Or someone who hasn't just lost an entire sausage roll in front of his friends during a class trip? Sage tilted what passed for his head. His telepathic exhale hit Ollie with the weight of centuries. Perhaps, but the sausage roll was entertaining. Ollie opened his mouth to argue, but shut it again in defeat as the octopus slowly hovered closer, tentacles swirling like puppeteer strings. Whatever this creature was, it wasn't going to let him escape with a polite refusal. I will leave you with this, Sage began, his voice heavy enough to quiet even the buzzing filtration pumps. The octa gift binds itself to choice. If you refuse, another may come along in decades, perhaps centuries. But with every tick of that clock, they take more lives. The oceans fall quieter. The mindless prevail. His enormous amber eyes glinted again, steady and unrelenting. So I ask you, Oliver Finch, do you have what it takes? Ollie stared at him, heart thundering, his skin sticky with salt and unease. All around him, the water froze painfully still, as if even time held her breath. Then one of his soaked sneakers finally slipped, and the tank swallowed his yelp whole.